Hello there, everybody. Welcome back. I'm here to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, Five Nights at Freddy's is the newest film from Blumhouse and Universal, and it's based off of the really popular video game franchise that started almost a decade ago. And it stars Josh Hutcherson as the main character, Mike, who is trying to find a job, to take care of his little sister and, support themselves. And so he gets a job as the security guard at Freddy Fazbear's, and he also struggles with, a really tragic incident that happened in his past. And it seems like when he's at this place, he starts to learn more about what happened, and so it incentivizes him to keep going back to learn more about what happened. And of course, the animatronics, do their thing. It's really interesting with this movie because it's another video game adaptation, and obviously I'm a big gamer, and so I do love to see these, especially when they're done right. And my theory was going into this, because when you saw the reviews come out of this thing, it's really bad reviews, but the audience score is really high, and a lot of fans and stuff I've been seeing online have been loving the movie and really happy, and there's lots of good Easter eggs and fan service stuff in the film. And so my theory was that it would be really similar to the Super Mario Bros. Movie in that aspect, which I did give a review of. And the fact that the critics, this movie's more made for the general audience that loves the lore and loves the topic of Five Nights at Freddy's, just like how the Mario Bros. Movie was made for Nintendo fans and gamers and all. And like that movie, I really enjoyed this movie. Now, it does have its negatives, I will give it that. It's not a perfect movie. It's not like the best movie of the year or anything. But for me, I enjoyed what it was doing. So some of the positives I have with the film is that it focused a lot on the story, because if you know about the lore and play Five Nights at Freddy's, the story's garbage. And originally there wasn't really a story. It was just a simple horror game of trying to keep the animatronics from attacking you in the room. And it evolved from that into dropping little nuggets and Easter eggs of this, about all the lore about who the animatronics were, the main serial killer guy in it, and all sorts of that type of stuff that they drop hints of, and they pushed out, and they just kept pushing all these games so fast. I believe at one point there was 4 games released in 1 year or something crazy like that. And so the fact that a main complaint that I've been seeing people have, I kid you not, there was this one article I saw that said that the movie had too much plot. And I was like, so we're complaining that a film actually has a plot to follow? It was so dumb. But due to that, for one, the movie's PG-13, which I thought was really odd at first, because usually horror films, especially the really good ones, are rated R. But it made sense, because the target audience for this is usually, in the lore, for the fans and all, it's usually teens and preteens and young adults. So it makes sense that they tried to have that rating. And honestly, watching it, there were some moments where I was a bit tensed, but it wasn't all that scary, which I'm not really a big horror guy, but I do want to check them out and, expand my horizons. And I enjoyed it for that, because, there's some creepy moments and tense elements, but I was more invested into what happened with, the backstory of the main character, because in the film, there's this thing that haunts him from his past. And I don't really want to dive into spoilers for when you check out the film, but you want to know what happened, and you get really invested in his story, and you really relate to him and feel bad for him. So I enjoyed that they tried to flesh out your main protagonist instead of just putting them in a horror situation and you don't really care about what happens. So I did like that. And the side characters as well is really good. For example, the big bad himself, Matthew Lillard, who, that was the most predictable thing ever. And I believe when they announced he was cast, they said he was going to be the bad guy. But still, really, really fun. I was really disappointed that we didn't see enough of him. He was barely in the film, but for what he's in, he was fantastic. And You have Elizabeth Leo, I believe her name is, who plays Vanessa, who is this police officer lady who helps out, your main character Mike in some of the situations here, and she knows a lot about it, and she isn't really letting on stuff that she knows. So, like, again, the supporting cast and the kid actress, she did a really good job, and overall, I really liked it. It felt like a smaller type of film that was just made with dedication for the fans. And you saw the main creator, Scott Cawthon, worked on the film. I believe he co-wrote the story with the director, he produced it. So again, if you have the talent involved, most of the time it'll turn out good. Like with Mario, I know some of the Nintendo people who worked with Mario in the games and all helped make the movie. And while Neil Druckmann did Last of Us and that show was garbage, most of the time it seems to work, at least 2 out of 3. So it's really fun that we're really starting to branch into a new era of potentially good video game adaptations. We've seen this happen time and time again now. For me personally, I love Detective Pikachu. The Sonic movies, I love those movies. And Mario did great. This movie's fun. So I really like what's going on here. And of course, I have to mention the animatronic, like from the Henson Company, who I believe they're the ones who made like the Muppets and all, and those type of puppeteers. Like, they did a fantastic job with the animatronics in Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, really well done. It was like the budget is so low on this film, but it works really well. It just adds a bit to, I mean, I guess you could say it adds a bit to the creep factor, where the place is located, how isolated and small it seems. So again, I loved the performances. There wasn't enough scares and all, which could be considered a negative. There wasn't enough Matthew Lillard because he's a terrific actor and he just steals the scene every time he's on screen. So that was disappointing. I did love the fan service stuff, like with, for example, I don't really want to dive into it. I really don't want to dive into it, but it's a lot of fun Easter eggs and nods for the fans, especially during the credits. I thought that was great. And, overall, I thought the movie was fine. Would I check it out again? Maybe, but it doesn't need to be seen really that much. Like, I'm not a hardcore FNAF fan, but I did enjoy it and I was happy to go see it. So, with all that said, those are my scattered thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy's. Again, thank you all so much for watching. It means so much to me. If you want to hit the subscribe button and the bell as well to get notified when I upload, that would mean so much to me. Again, thank you all so much, and I'll see you all later. Bye.